Hey, how's it
Hello.
going? Yes, sir. It's it's showtime.
We are both in very blue rooms.
Yeah, your room is more blue than normal. Well, I see
Sl-
your shirt's very blue too. Or is
Yeah,
that just the lighting?
probably both.
Hmm.
It's like
Okay.
UNC Duke in here.
Yeah, I guess so. This is my normal setup though, so nothing's different on my end.
I changed my lighting thing so
Hmm.
it makes my skin look less orange.
Let's go. I can change some lighting. Whoa, whoa.
Hmm.
Hmm. I don't know. No, sir. I don't like it. Red. Oh, hellfire. Here we go. All right. The producer has screwed up again, but let's go, Brandon.
Yeah, that's definitely one of my most entertaining cultural memes that's happened in quite a while.
I had somebody mention it to me yesterday that I would have not anticipated mentioning it to me yesterday, like in normal conversation. I was like, huh, I didn't think that was something you would have been involved in, but that's pretty
Yeah, the
fun.
Let's Go Brandon phenomenon is like it's almost like an interesting sort of litmus test. It tells you like because it's such a random thing, like there's no way that you would guess what it was.
Yes, correct.
So it's an interesting experiment to like say, hey, like, how about that Let's Go Brandon thing? And people go, what? And then you can tell, okay, that person doesn't hang out on, you know,
My corner,
libertarian or
yeah,
conservative corners of the internet.
that corner of the internet, right? Yeah, and it's not even that necessarily the. Well, I mean, I guess you can know about it and not actually like agree with it or like have that kind of sentiment or whatever. But I mean, the fact that you're aware of it is it's that is pretty funny. It is like a little litmus test, I would think.
Right.
Do you know about how it all started? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I had to go back and look it up.
Right. So it
I was
is. It
curious. I
is.
mean, I heard the basic story and
Well,
then
my.
I
Well,
was
let me give
curious
you
later
my
to see the
understanding.
actual clip. And then it was like, it was really funny.
Right. So is your understanding or my understanding is it's like a NASCAR interview, some guy named Brandon, and they're all
Yeah.
yelling. They're talking to him, and it's being fuck Joe Biden in the back, and the girl's like, "Oh wow, they're saying let's go, Brandon. Oh
Well, because
wow,
the
how does
guy's
that
name
feel?"
was Brandon.
Yes, the guy's name is
Yeah.
Brandon. Right. And then like I guess and like I listened to it once or twice, and like I guess if you think about it or just listen real quick, you're like, oh okay, maybe I guess I could hear let's go Brandon. But if you give it 4 seconds, you're like, oh no, that's definitely a fuck Joe Biden.
Right. Because
It's not.
there's other clips going around too of like, there's like an Ole Miss game and
Oh yeah, yeah. Right. No, that's
so
its whole
it's
see, that's
clearly,
his whole yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. But that's a whole nother thing. Like that's like all the sporting events and all these random ass like mass gatherings of people where people are just chanting that out of nowhere for no reason. It's pretty it's weird. Like
Yeah.
if it was like a fuck Donald Trump thing, I think the other side would still be like, hey, listen to these people. This is great. You know,
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure there were those. They just, it might not be at a sporting event, right? It would be at, the Women's March
it
or
might not be tens of thousands of people. Yeah, but like a sporting event isn't inherently right wing. I
not
don't
on
think.
paper. But I think if you did a little bit of cross sec, you did some Venn diagramming, you did a Pew Research study,
Uh-huh.
like if
A
you ask
Quinnipiac
everybody,
poll.
like, what was the last, how many major sporting events do you attend in a calendar year, right? Whether it's like college
Mhm.
football, basketball, or like the Rangers or something, like, and then you correlated that with a propensity towards a right leaning opinion, or not necessarily right leaning, but an anti Joe Biden
Sure.
opinion. I bet you that the correlative factor would be high.
Yeah, maybe so. But
It
just
would be slightly more than,
it would be more like contrasting it to women's march rally is not a fair contrast, I don't think. because that would obviously
That was
be
deliberately organized for a political purpose, right?
Yes, exactly. Well, yeah, not even that. Just like, but like because there are people on the left side of the spectrum who would definitely go to sporting events. But yeah, I
Right.
mean, or maybe I think NASCAR. That's safe to say.
Yeah,
Not
NASCAR,
necessarily-
right?
But college football, I don't know, man. Like that's
Yeah,
not.
you're probably right.
A lot of it was going on in college football, but whatever, dude. And it's also you said it was like Ole Miss, it was like in Texas. It was like a bunch of those places. So
Yeah. So okay, so to correct the statement, you'd probably have to control for geography.
yeah,
That would be an interesting little chart.
it would be.
Yeah.
I would subscribe to that study. I'd
And the
read
interesting
that on.
outliers would be probably in the ones that you wouldn't expect, right? You might see, you're like, wait a minute, I thought that university was pretty left leaning, and then you see like a bunch of bros up in the stands. So
Right, because I instantaneously was like thinking of my or hearing myself say it, and someone's just like, "Oh no, it's in this city, it's in this city, it's in that town." I was like, "Oh well, yeah, you never know." I don't know.
I don't particularly find the people who hate Joe Biden who are right wing. That's not particularly interesting
No,
because
that's
of
pretty
course,
predictable.
it's going to happen. What is interesting to me is the centrists.
Yeah,
The people who like would be on the fence. It would be very safe for them to just sort of stay in the party line. I'm always slightly impressed by the cojones and the bravery of people who are willing to come out against something like that. I mean, you could say the same thing about like Republicans who like hated Trump, although that was a different scenario because he's a pretty caustic person who was kind of hateable in different kinds of ways than Biden is hateable. But it didn't really take a lot of balls to come out and be like, I don't think Donald Trump is a great president. Right.
yeah. You're not sticking your neck out for that one?
Yeah, you're not risking anything, right? Whereas coming out against Joe Biden, you are risking something. You're risking cancellation, your job, wherever university, you're
Yeah.
So you have to literally go against the entire media establishment.
This is correct. Yeah, that would be. Yeah, that is a harder thing to do, and I guess laudable in one way, shape or the other. So I don't know. It's funny to me though how these things kick off. Actually, yeah, because that's a funny way for this meme, this hashtag, this thing to go, and then just to see it morph at a like you hear it and like you laugh and you're like, okay, that's great, and then you start seeing it around more. And like I think you were talking about, it's on T-shirts now. I've seen it on T-shirts too.
Yeah, I saw a dude the other day.
Like people jump all over this stuff, and it's
I've seen
amazing
several
how
people on
fast
my
that stuff
Facebook
picks
feed
up.
have like I can see where they've bought the T-shirt. Like woohoo! I ordered it. And
Wow.
these are people who are not shy about anything. So they're not exactly the type of people that you're going to have nuanced conversation with.
Right.
But yeah,
Does it actually
is.
just say? Does it say "Let's go, Brandon," or is it the?
Well, there's different versions, right?
versions.
Most of them, the easier ones are just the ones that just say "Let's go, Brandon." And so
Yeah.
if you get the joke, you chuckle. If you don't get the joke, it goes whoosh.
Yeah.
So
that's a whole. That is a
maybe
whole
that's
nother
what makes
level
it
of
so
balls.
clever is that it's not offensive
Yeah.
on you know what I mean? Like you could wear that to any event. And people are like, what are you talking about? My kid's name is Brandon. You know what I mean?
No, my
just
boy Brandon, dude.
What are you talking about? He's selling cookies. What are you talking about?
It was a trip for me and my buddies. It was his birthday, Brandon. We all made T-shirts for him.
Yeah.
That's what this was about. Yeah, it would be a whole nother level of balls to wear a shirt that says "fuck Joe Biden," and a whole lot of level of just social. I don't care what you think. I'm wearing this T-shirt.
Yeah.
And
That'd be funny.
I don't think I would, but I mean, it's funny. I would just you see someone wear it. Like, okay, that's interesting. You really don't like Joe Biden. You put it on a T-shirt.
Yeah. I mean, it's a little tacky.
It's definitely tacky.
That doesn't mean it's not hilarious. So two things can be true at once. You can be tacky and ill-advised and not a great way to express yourself and get across intellectual points. It's not going to convince anybody who is on Team Biden. They go, well, I was really on board, but then I saw that shirt and now I'm just like, I got to rethink. I mean, so, right. However,
Man, yeah. It's like your
none of those
bumper sticker
caveats mean
in
that it's
combination
not
with your
hilarious.
T-shirt, really. Yeah. No, it's like a Green Day line from that song Minority. It's like, oh, change your or got your philosophy from a bumper sticker. Like, it's your T-shirt really pushed me over the edge there. That argument.
What's that old thing? It's like if your viewpoint fits on a sign, like think harder,
Yeah. Whoop. Dang, jeez. knocking stuff around here. Okay, we're good. We're good. I heard and this isn't true, by the way, but I just heard it, and like it rings true, and it was funny. Like I heard it, and I gave me pause. I was like, "There's no way that's true," and I was like, "But it's also possible. It could be true that there was like a ban on the hashtag Let's Go Brandon, or Facebook was going to deem it as hate speech or something." I was like, "No way, they would never do that." And
Oh,
they
I would
didn't do that.
I would absolutely believe that if that were to happen.
Well, no, yeah. So first of all, really believed it. I was just like, I gotta check into that because that sounds too stupid, and it is too stupid. That's not actually happening. But if it did happen, you'd just be like, I don't know. But the fact that I had the pause there, and so did you for a second at least. You're like, oh, I could totally believe that.
Yeah,
That's a crazy.
That's a very believable story. It's dirt. You know, that's well within the bounds of the type of things that they do.
Yeah, that
You
would
know,
just be, that'd be
I mean,
insane,
look,
though.
they buried the whole laptop story from last year. You know, and everybody could tell that it was total. It was so phony,
Yeah.
but they suffered no consequences. I mean, because they were like, well, you know, it's what was it? They tried to defend it by saying it was based on like leaked information or like a
Oh,
hack
yeah.
or something like that.
Right.
And
Yeah,
so like
they
it
would-
doesn't
they would
fit our
never share
standards
that.
for actual news. Setting aside that like, you know, all the stories that they would post about Trump and stuff like that, there were no problems, and those were all based on hacked information.
Yeah, right. It was journalistic integrity not to release information that was ill-gotten. Like, please, whatever.
Yeah, like
Liars.
WikiLeaks and all that stuff, and you know,
Yeah. I mean,
anything related to Snowden.
the unnamed sources. That's all you have to say. Unnamed sources say.
Yeah,
Yeah. This is bullshit. Excuse me. But that's what they do, Dan. They hide stuff they don't like, and they post stuff and boost stuff they do like. But yeah. Your room is blue.
Yeah.
How's the red look? No, I don't care. I'm just kidding.
it's red.
Okay, I'll leave it for now. It feels.
We look
weird.
like we should be having some sort of like point counterpoint kind of thing, you know.
Oh, it's like it is. Oh, good. Now I'm on the right. You're on the left. That's how the colors go. Great.
Actually, Steve, I think that... Yeah.
Oh man, I haven't been actually following the news much or anything this week. I don't know what's been going on. I've been busy.
It's the usual stuff. Did you watch the Dave Chappelle special?
Yeah, I did.
I thought it was great. We may have talked. Did we talk about this last week?
I think we talked about it a little bit. I know we did talk about it, but I hadn't watched it yet, or I'd only watched a little bit of it. I did watch the whole thing. I liked it. I thought it was good.
I mean, he's got an interesting scenario because it's like everybody's calling him the GOAT, and it's like, I mean, he is one of the greatest, but it's like he's sort of morphed into this personality where he like almost tells stories, and he's a great orator, but like he's almost like he's turned into George Carlin, you know, like in George Carlin's twilight years, he wasn't really doing like, and then I was told him, you know, you tie him up, but you know, like there was no punchlines. It was all just sort of these like spoken word kind of societally observational essays, right? And it feels like, because you go back and you watch Chappelle's old stuff, he's like telling you know, he's telling those random stories about like a baby sneaking in a club and like all this kind of stuff. It's clearly like stand-up material.
Right.
But now he just sort of speaks autobiographically, and he does it in a funny way. But it's not like, you know, he doesn't do bits anymore. He just tells stories and just sort of expresses himself, which is interesting. For somebody who they're calling the GOAT, you don't actually laugh that much.
I would say, yeah, you definitely don't laugh as much as you probably would think you would. You probably would if you were there, but like watching it at home, you do listen more. Yeah. No, I feel what you're saying. It's definitely more, more autobiographical, more storytelling, more stuff with a larger point other than just being funny. It's like a muted Mike Birbiglia, which is like one long story and a stand-up special. Have you ever watched that guy?
Yeah, no, I love him. He's great.
He's really that dude's brilliant and how he tells a story and tells jokes with it. But that's intentional. Like the whole thing is so long and drawn out. And like the ending is intense. It's not funny at the end. but like, he proves what he thinks his point is, and he gets it across. And
Yeah, basically illustrating that everybody who gets outraged, it's it's very similar to Let's Go Brandon, because you can tell whether or not somebody's watched it by whether they're upset or not. Because the people who are like picket lining and protesting and walking out, like, there's no way that they watched it, because if they watched it, you'd have to be an idiot not to pick up on the message of the whole thing.
yeah,
Right?
I would agree.
And so it's like, okay, you're just revealing yourself to be dumb, you know?
Yeah, just a reactionary, going off of a argument about headlines and sound bites and all that stuff, and not actually giving it a full listen and a good honest hear.
Yeah. It'll be interesting
Yeah.
to see how it plays out, because, originally Netflix was kind of sticking by him, and it remains to be seen whether that'll hold.
Well, they still are though. I mean, I know they like Netflix had their like 14 employees walk out and have a small protest and all that stuff, but they haven't taken it down.
For the time being.
Or I think the CEO said something about, there might be some offensive stuff there. Maybe we should have rethought it, but they didn't take it down. By the way, it's still up. It's still playing. And they're still making money.
Well, I mean,
So
how many millions of dollars they paid him to do that? I mean,
yeah,
they can't exactly not use this media that they just paid millions of dollars for.
I think he got like 20 plus million for all those last couple. Like he did what, 3 or 4 specials with them? I think it was like 20 million. That's a crap load of money for 4 shows. That's nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the fallout is pretty funny. And then I saw there's other clips going around where because like people like saying, hey, you should come to Netflix and come talk to the LGBT community. He's like, I'll go talk to him, no problem. He's like, but I'm gonna do it how I want to do it. But he's just like, also one of the stipulations is you actually have to watch the special. If you're not gonna watch it, I'm not gonna talk to you about it. That's just asinine and stupid.
Yeah.
So
I feel like the progressive left doesn't really know what to do with Dave Chappelle. It seems like he's useful when he's like, well, he said in the special, he's like, my issue has always been with white people. And so it's like, if that's the subject you're talking about, then like, okay, great. You could be, we love having Dave Chappelle on our side because he makes these great observational points. And then it's like, he went off the reservation. So now what do we do? Because if we criticize him, it's like we're punching down, right? And so this is the inherent problem of intersectionality, is that like that kind of happened. It's like, everybody joins up, with a common enemy, right? Which is the white patriarchy, basically. And then that's fine as long as you're continuing to fight the white patriarchy. But then what happens when you defeat the white patriarchy? Well, now it's like, well, who do we fight now? Well, we got to fight each other. It's like the Bolsheviks. They kicked out all the people who were in charge of Russia, and they're like, all right, well, we're in charge now. All right, well, let's start beheading each other. So, because there's a lot of the people in that sort of larger progressive coalition that have fundamentally incompatible views with one another. So, it's only a matter of time till people start realizing, wait a second. We've been championing for Muslim rights, but then this person over here is a Muslim and he doesn't like my gay friend, right? Or it's like, you find like an Asian person who's really racist against black people or something, right? Or well, Jews aren't really included in that group, right? So like you can make anti-Semitic jokes and it's like no problem, but like say you did, right? Say you met like some minority who was like a rabid anti-Semite. It's like, all right, well, what do we do with all these things? Because we don't have white people to hate anymore. I don't know. It's tricky.
Yeah. The intersectionality stuff is insane because like the end of his show, his point was, hey, there was this trans comedian that he knew, loved, and was friends with that supported him and then was badgered to death, almost literally, by the trans community, and then committed suicide and attributed that to it. So, and like he kind of made the joke on this other thing I was watching. He was just like, ironically, as a black man, I'm not allowed to be at like the table at Netflix anymore. He's like, so like it was a black guy who got in there, and now I'm discriminated against. Now I'm kicked out, which was like used to be like so it's like the eating its own kind of thing. So like the championship of a minority superstar like Dave Chappelle, now he's kicked out. the championing of a transgender comedian that was apparently sucked, but at least was doing stuff with Dave Chappelle and like making a way through the community.
Yeah.
She got destroyed. So you have to have, it's not enough just to be the intersectional checkbox of the week. You have to have the right ideology, and that's really all it comes down to.
Correct. And that's a point I remember making a lot during the last couple of elections. People get all excited and they're like, well, oh, we're gonna have the first woman president, or like with Elizabeth Warren is running, and it's like, oh, we might have the first woman president finally, all this kind of stuff. Or like, Kamala Harris, and it's like, well, it's just so great to have a woman as a vice president. And I'm like, oh, so you must have been really excited when Sarah Palin was running. They go, oh, well, no. I mean, because, so, okay.
Yeah.
Because it's like, you can't have both sides of your mouth, because if what you're saying is, because, okay, so what would happen is I'd be like, well, I'm not really a big fan of Kamala Harris. She has some viewpoints that I find troubling and problematic. Same thing with Hillary Clinton. Like I think true equality would be judging somebody based on what their job performance is likely to be and their viewpoints and their view of it's like, well, you don't have the luxury of doing that. We got to just focus on the gender of the person.
Right.
I was like, okay, well then why didn't you vote for Sarah Palin? It's like, oh, well, because I disagree with her. Like, oh, okay, yeah, exactly. So viewpoints do matter. So it's like, well, which is it? Like, okay, so.
Correct.
That bothered me about a lot of people. And people you point that out and they're like, huh? Like it just, it never sunk in. It's strange to me.
Yeah. Well, we're going to have
the same thing where it's like people, if you didn't like Barack Obama, he would admit, well, there's some subtle racism still in our country.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It's like, look, I don't think it's racist to think that your viewpoints are foolish. Well, you think my viewpoints are foolish. That doesn't make you racist against white people.
Yeah, right. The uber racist country that overwhelmingly voted for a black man twice in a row. I just think that's great. What a world. What a place we've come a long way.
Yeah.
Basically Jim Crow still, Dan. It's Jim Crow. That's what happens. But hey, don't worry about it. We're gonna have a first female and minority president pretty soon anyway. So it's gonna be all right. That's gonna suck. That's gonna be a fun conversation if that were to happen, because that would just be asterisk all day long. Like, well, not elected president,
Yeah, that's gonna be
split in there.
I mean, the last time that happened, we got Lyndon Johnson.
The lion son of a bitch Johnson.
Did he actually win an election? I think he ran in the 64, right? So he was elected eventually.
I think that's accurate. Yes. Yeah.
Right.
He right.
And then Nixon was after him. Right. Okay. So
yeah,
he wasn't totally just like.
It wasn't just a blurb in history.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's accurate. I'd have to look that up to be 100% certain, but that sounds right. I should watch Forrest Gump, and that would help me figure out if that was an accurate representation.
Yeah, it's not worth watching Forrest Gump.
I know. I just like ripping on that with you. It's fun. Well, I don't know. Yeah, so that's funny. We watched all that stuff. We weren't even talking about that, but I did just stumble across some Dave Chappelle stuff. It's probably algorithm fed. Just my news feeds were showing me stuff I wanted to see.
Yeah.
Because they know, the computer knows, the internet knows what I want. It just feeds me that super right-wing red meat. That's what I am. That's what I am.
It's what's funny is that like I looked up the Let's Go Brandon clip, and then after that, my whole YouTube feed was all like Sean Hannity and Tucker Carlson kind of stuff, and I'm like, hold on, yeah. That's not the bubble I want to live in, So, because I'll kind of pop my head into like that crowd. They'll be like, what are they saying? And then they'll say like two sentences. I'm like, all right, I'm kind of tracking with that. And then they'll say like a third sentence. I'm like, well,
nah.
And then they get to, it's like, and they're trying to destroy our values. And also, I'm just like, okay,
yeah.
Can we just get some normal people? Like, I don't necessarily think that I don't think Tucker Carlson's a bad dude, but the guys that just take everything too far.
Yeah.
I don't know. And there's an inability to recognize the grain of truth in the other side, because they're afraid that if other people know about the grain of truth in the other side's argument, then that might turn into the seed turns into a tree, right? And they both extreme sides do it. But I tend to lose respect for people who just sort of speak so declaratively. You know, they don't throw any caveats in there. I don't know.
Yeah.
Not all conservatives do that, and not all progressives do it, right? But the people who tend to get their, you know, we've ranted about the media before, but like the people who tend to get, you know, a 10-minute clip of them ranting, those people are not the ones being like, all right, well, look, we all got some, you know, that's a level of maturity that isn't really as entertaining to watch as somebody yelling at a TV.
Yeah, that stuff. I mean, that certainly doesn't sell as much as you know, this is where I'm at. This is right. This is wrong. Blah blah blah. Black and white on everything. Which there is a lot of black and white, but there is some. You know, there's spots where you can definitely see both ways. But that doesn't feed your base, and that doesn't feed the rageaholics. You gotta have that in there, especially on the cable news stuff. You only have 15, 20 seconds at a time, or a couple minutes at most, if you're gonna have a monologue.
Yeah,
you really got to rip into it.
Yeah, I mean it's the Twitter of network news, right? Where it's like, if you're in, are there any issues that could be accurately described in a 3-minute blurb? You know what I mean?
No,
like it's the same thing with Twitter. Like it squeezes all of the pockets of nuance out of a situation and forces things to be dumbed down.
Yeah, that's accurate. Yeah, no, I don't think there is a good way to do it. That's why it's probably a dying medium. I mean, once the boomer age group is past watching television age, that's going to be a tough medium to survive in, I think.
Yeah, that'd be there's not a lot of people.
Survey. Yeah, like there's not a lot of like 40 and under people really watching those shows, either like Fox News or MSNBC or CNN or anything.
Yeah, I don't.
Their viewership sucks. So I don't know. I mean, compared to just any random. I mean, there are Joe Blow podcasts that get more freaking views than CNN.
And they're all like very long. You know, this is why I mean, I don't understand how people have this much time in their day. You know what I mean? Like, there's a few people that I kind of follow that I'm like, okay, they put something on. Like, who do they have on? Oh, that sounds cool. All right, but if I'm going to invest an hour, you know, or 2 hours. It better be like one of my favorite people, right? Or something that's legitimately interesting. Yeah. But like this is the sheer amount of like long form stuff that's out there. It's like everybody's writing books every month.
There is there's
not enough time to read everything, you know, and I don't, sometimes when I'm driving or if I'm doing a monotonous task at work, I can listen to, but if I'm doing real stuff, you know, or driving with the kid, like I don't have time. I probably would, you know, if every day was a 48-hour day. But there's just too many things happening at once.
I definitely have a fair amount of truck time driving around, so I get to listen to a lot of stuff. But even then, I'll tune out a lot. I get interrupted by a phone call, or I'm checking emails, or I'm writing up something, you know. So a lot of it's just background noise for me.
Yeah.
Unless it's something I'm really, really interested in, then I'll probably break it up. Like I rarely can like listen to like a Joe Rogan podcast, which is like usually 2.5, 3 hours straight.
Yeah,
2 hours, 2 hours minimum. Yeah, I'm not sitting anywhere for 2 hours. I'm just gonna sit by myself and listen to this. I'm doing like 8 other things. So it's kind of that's how it works for me. But I was doing that with like regular podcasts forever.
Yeah.
You know, just like from the last 15 years or so. Not 15 years.
I tend to put them on in the background while I'm like playing guitar. Like I'll put something on here, like people talking about stuff, and I'll kind of like noodle around and play stuff, and then like it's kind of like having people in your house that are just talking about stuff, and then if it perks up, like, oh, okay, oh, that's relevant to my interests, you know, or something.
Yeah. Well, even today, like I was cleaning the kitchen, doing the dishes. I threw my earphone in and I listened to something for like 15, 20 minutes while I was cleaning up. Better than listening to dishes clank. That's pretty much it.
I saw this cool video where, and we probably have to watch about this turning into like a Dan and Dave react to like various Joe Rogan stories. But
yeah, I agree.
I'll tell this one story. There was this guy, some YouTube channel that was like this dude who's like a language coach or something like that, or a communications professor, whatever. And so he took that clip of him and Gupta talking about ivermectin stuff, and he was like analyzing all of the different like the style of argument and how like, okay, well, the way that he says this, it represents a position of strength, but also like he's still inviting the other guy to be on a position of equality. Like Like he started the conversation giving him the opportunity to save face. Right? Like he wasn't immediately gonna, and so like I was thinking about this for like 30 minutes afterwards. I'm like, as a person who finds the art of arguing to be very interesting, probably because I've lost a lot of them, I find this like breaking down like, okay, see, you start from a place of confidence when you actually allow the person to get on before there even a fight starts, right? You allow the person to kind of get on your wavelength. And then if there's going to be an argument, you let the other person start it. And then they look less secure in their point, right? Like you don't want to, like say you're fighting with, like you don't want to be the person to raise your voice first, you know? So he went through all of this stuff, you know, and it wasn't until like where the guy messed up was, so they were talking about CNN or whatever. And Rogan's like, yeah, they're lying at your network, man. They made this stuff up, you know? And so Gupta tried to do a reversal. He's like, yeah, that bothered you, didn't it? Like something a therapist would say. And that was wrong because then he's like, well, it should bother you too.
Oh, you. Yeah.
And it's like, oh crap. Like I wasn't planning on that, you know? So, cause normally what you would do if you were trying to like deflect, you know, something, you was like, oh yeah. So tell me how that feels. That bothers you, right? And then you, with the intention of like letting that person kind of rant and go off and look like unhinged. But in this guy's case, it backfired because when you know you have the facts on your side, you know, you can afford to let your hair down a little bit because you know that at the end of the day, you've got truth, right? It's people who, when you really have to watch it, when you like, you're not entirely sure of your position, then you're like, okay, I gotta keep my wits about me because if I lose my shit and I accidentally go off the handle, then I'm just going to torpedo my whole point there, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. I would suspect that's not done on purpose. I think Joe Rogan's just probably a natural.
Yeah, it's a natural thing.
It's a natural thing for him to do because he's not super like combative in a lot of his interviews.
Did you see the one where he was talking to Steven Crowder?
Yeah,
that was like 5, 6, 7 years ago where they're talking about weed.
Yeah, they got mad. He got mad about that.
Oh, that was painful.
Joe likes his weed though, so
yeah.
But I guess at some point, like he actually called up and apologized for that. He's just like, I didn't want it to turn into that.
Who apologized, Steve or Joe?
Joe.
It makes sense.
Yeah. So, but I listened to it. I don't remember being like awful. It wasn't like the worst interaction ever. But
no, I mean it's definitely cherry picked, right?
Yeah.
You're talking about the Gupta thing or the Crowder thing?
No, the Crowder thing. Sorry, the Crowder one. Oh yeah, no, the Gupta one. Like the whole interview was very nice. Very.
Yeah, it was 3 hours with like an awkward 15-minute. It's in the middle there.
Super congenial, man. It was not combative at all. It was just that one little section, and even that was like not that combative. He was just like, not joking with him, but he was like, dude, come on, dude, no, you can't, no, I'm not gonna let you get away with that.
Yeah,
but like it wasn't like he wasn't like fuck you, man, fuck you and see it, fuck you, bro.
Yeah.
So
I would be interested to be a fly on the wall the next time Gupta was in a board meeting over there at CNN.
Yeah.
You know, they were like, yeah,
maybe don't do that again.
Yeah, we really need you to kind of hit these points and, you know, and
really
they're like,
better just to be on reliable sources. Just
and he was probably like, you know what? I'm freaking dying in there, okay? You guys try going on doing 3 hours with this guy. The guy's a maniac. He's eating elk meat. He's smoking weed. I don't know what's going on. I think that, you know, I had a thought that might be like a low-key genius part of his thing is that, like, he's got this stamina. Like, nobody goes, I mean, unless you're being interrogated by, like, the FBI. Like, when do you ever just sit down and talk for 3 hours straight about, like, huge topics? You know what I mean? Normally, like... So I think that's like you go in there and he's just like he's at a home court advantage, right? You know, and he's got his body all tuned to where he doesn't have to piss but like twice a day or something like that. And so, you know, you're going in there kind of like all like nervous, and you're like not sure what's going to go on. That's got to be incredibly intimidating.
Yeah. Yeah. That, and you know, there's like a billion people listening to it.
Yeah.
He's like, this is like I do this 3 times a week or 3 times every 2 days or something like that. However often it records.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be intense. But I don't know. It's just what he does. And that's the funny thing though. It's like not like a lot of the interviews are stupid. Or like he just has his friends on, and like I don't really listen to a lot of those. I do every now and again, like when like tons of comedians come on and tons of
Those are interesting. The ones with the
like
MMA fighters, I can't really follow because they're.
I
like,
don't do any of the MMA stuff. In fact,
It's like if
whenever
I was
someone-
listening to two people talking about football for 45 minutes. I'm like, I have no idea what the hell you guys are talking about.
Hey, look, I like football. I don't listen to like sports podcasts. I can't. I'm not that in depth on that kind of stuff. I just don't care about it that much. But yeah, no. If anyone's on there that I like, and then they break into like an MMA discussion, I was like, click, 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 click. Come on, get over it.
Yeah, and they start
But
pulling up
that's just-
clips. They're like, all right, here's Foreman. You see what he's
Yeah.
doing with his jab here? What? I'm just like, oh, God.
Like that sounds like it'd be a fun interview or something to like listen to two people talk about if you're there and you want to be polite. You're like, okay, great. I'll just listen to these guys talk about
Yeah.
who's the greatest grappler of all time. But yeah, that's not it's not, I don't care that much. Yeah.
It's like, who invented the guillotine hold?
Well, we all know that was Doshkif. He's the best.
Who?
I just made a name up.
Oh, I thought it was that somebody I was supposed to know.
Nope. See, that was good. I came up with a completely real sounding fake name. I don't remember Doshkif. Yep. He's also good at chess. That's pretty good.
I just had a thought. What was that? Did you ever see Inglorious Bastards?
Yes.
Well, okay. I was thinking about it because remember he was talking to Quentin Tarantino. Like that random part where they're in the little bar that's like underground or whatever, and
Yeah.
Michael Fassbender is trying to like sneak his way into the Nazis or whatever, and then he gets ousted because he does 3 like this or whatever.
Yeah.
And they're playing that little game with the cards, and there's this random little thing in there where it's like they're doing like 20 questions or whatever, and it's like, did I come from a faraway place? Did I came from the jungle? You know, and he says, and they're trying to guess, and he's like, "Oh, I'm the black man in America." And she says, "No." He's like, "Then I'm King Kong." And then he gets it, and it was like just this stupid throwaway line that Germans wouldn't have said in the 40s, but it was like this weird like fan theory from like decades ago that like King Kong was like a low key supposed to be metaphor for the black experience in America, like brought from the jungle against his will. And like it's like simultaneously progressive and also kind of racist at the same time,
Yeah.
right? You know, kind of brought to America for entertainment purposes, ultimately misunderstood and eventually murdered. I don't know.
Yeah. But where? Okay. I guess so. Yeah, maybe.
I just remember
But,
watching
yeah.
that movie with Jeremy or whatever. He was showing it to me, and I was like, "Hold on, that's a deep topic." Like, and it's just a throwaway line in this movie about World War II. It was like really strange.
I never thought. I didn't know that was a at some point plot theory about King Kong.
Well, I had neither. I thought Tarantino made it up, but then if you go looking for it, which of course I did because I'm a dork, you find other people making reference to that, like in film schools and stuff. Strange.
I don't know. That seems a little too on the nose. If that's it, black man put in chains on a boat, brought over, jumps off a building, shot by an airplane. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, you can't.
It's
The metaphor breaks down at some point.
That's pretty quick, right? Like, I don't know. He's worshipped in Africa. I mean, he's worshipped, right? I don't know. I don't get it. But-
Well, it's more feared. Yeah, there's really no. Well, yeah, the more you
yes.
think about it, the more racist it sounds.
yeah.
So probably not best for us to get too deep into it, but
I feel like the more racist it sounds, like as you're discussing it, not the actual merits of the story. Is that what you mean? Like the more we talk about it, the more racist we sound.
Right.
Not the more racist the movie comes off. Okay, good. Like, wow, you really want this to be about a black guy, don't you?
no. Well, the movie is incredibly racist on its own, without even getting into that part of it, because the depiction of
Yeah.
these like natives is
Right.
You
That's
know.
that's the cultural insensitive part. It's true.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
It's
Yeah,
yeah, and they didn't really improve on that in the remakes, which is slightly surprising. You know, like if you watch the Peter Jackson version of King Kong, the natives are just as ruthless and brutal and crazy.
Yeah, but
You know.
also, all right. So, like, we're joking that it's actually the more racist part, but is it really though? I mean, because like that's part. There were those tribes, like those types of people that
Yes.
were encountered by the Western world. There's no doubt about that, and that could be terrifying, and that adds to the story. Like if
Yes.
King Kong, like they went to an island and it was like undiscovered and it was Taiwan or like Hong Kong, you're like, huh, this really well built up place. and there's a giant monkey in here. This is weird. What's going on? That would be
Yeah.
even stranger. But that's okay.
Yeah,
We haven't talked about movies in a long time.
I can talk about movies all the time.
I know you can. You're a wealth of knowledge there when it comes to movies. I am
I don't know if I'm a wealth of knowledge.
compared
I'm
to
like
me,
a-
you are.
I'm a reasonably maturing mutual fund of knowledge.
I'm a well read one volume of encyclopedia. Not an entire volume, just selective.
I was watching one of those cracked after hours videos where they were talking about horror movies,
Yeah.
and they haven't made any of those videos in like 5 years. So I was kind of like going back through the archives, and there's some really interesting observations there. Specifically, the difference between like English horror and American horror.
Mhm.
So, and I'm going to be butchering this as I try to describe it, but like the one, I forget which dude was saying it. Like, so scary things that happened in England, like happened in the cities, right? Like Jack the Ripper and
Yep.
stuff like that, because the cities represent sort of, that's where England's sins are, like the Industrial Revolution, the loss of, like the poor houses and all this kind of
Now,
stuff.
are we
Whereas-
talking like English? Sorry to interrupt. English horror as a genre in general, or as a movie thing, or just as
I
a
think both
story arc?
both movie and literary, but like
Okay. That's what.
there's very few American horror stories that take place in cities. They're almost always in like
rural.
rural areas, because that was the site of America's great sins: slavery, the genocide of the Native Americans. So it's like that's where we find our fears. Where like, we feel safe in a city, like just, you know what I mean? And it's like you start to think about it, you can't really find examples that don't fit. Basically, meaning
Right.
like
Not many anyway.
well,
Yeah.
the old English horror stuff, with the except it was like vampires, like Dracula or like
Yep.
Frankenstein. They're all like sort of metaphors for like, I'm not gonna say this again, like metaphors for colonialism, like the English expansion around like the world, and then what's the scary thing to them? It's like, well, it's when the frontier pushes back, right? So
Interesting.
I don't know.
Never thought
Whereas
about
like American horror, like you're likely to see like, crazy like cannibal rednecks or something like that.
Yeah.
Like something in America that represents the worst of us,
Yeah.
kind of, as
Yeah,
opposed to like,
it happens far away in an isolated area.
right. Because that's what's
Then-
scary. The idea that you don't have to, you can't call for help. You're just sort of alone,
Yeah. Interesting.
like maybe that would be a challenge for somebody like trying to write a horror story. Like, okay, this is going to take place in the middle of Manhattan. Like, how did you know what I mean? Like, the normal tropes of what make a horror movie work wouldn't work in the middle of the city.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. Just because there's so many people around.
Yeah.
Like then they become like mass extinction movies or like disaster movies.
Right. So
It
that
goes,
leads me
it goes
to
from horror to disaster.
right. So you're talking about like Japanese stuff, right? So
Yeah.
the Japanese, Godzilla comes out, 9 years after Hiroshima. So in their minds, like the existential horror is like some sort of unstoppable force that just, that is just, you just
Level
can't do
stuff,
anything about it. And that's very present in like we watched the first Godzilla movie the other day, and it's like not campy at all. Like it's just like, okay, well, here's an unstoppable force. We can't really do anything. Oh, and then at the end, oh, well, we can do something. Then and then they kill Godzilla, and then it's over. It's like,
Do they kill Godzilla in the original?
yeah,
Well, how do
So-
they kill Godzilla?
the scientist dude invents some sort of chemical thing that destroys oxygen in water. And so the movie doesn't really have a climax, right? Like all the kaiju rampage stuff happens in like the middle of the movie, and then the last like 30 minutes is them debating over. He doesn't want to use this technology because he's afraid it's going to use turned into some sort of weapon of mass destruction or whatever. So he's like, all right, well, we'll use it against Godzilla, but I'm going to take it down there, and my secret dies with me. And it's like this dramatic moment. So he goes down there and he kills Godzilla.
Does he die when he does it?
Well, yeah, he stays down there with the
Yeah,
just
right.
like,
Oh wow. Oh,
So
That's a
after the
little
movie
plot
made a
twist.
bunch of money, they're like, okay, so that whole thing where he died, we're not going to do that anymore.
Yeah, it's a
So-
reboot. Good. Everything is just a gritty reboot of the first one.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Huh. That's funny.
But
I
then
never thought
all
about
of
that.
your typical sort of kaiju movies, the good ones at least, represent some sort of, like there was this one that he fought like that was based on like pollution, right? And there was another one that was like somehow based on like global warming or something like that. There was a pretty shallow barrel that they kept like scraping the bottom of to come up with like, all
Yeah.
right, what about a giant crab? So,
A moth. Yeah, pick an insect and make it bigger. That's what we need to be scared of.
yeah, I never really figured out how Mothra was supposed to be scary.
Yeah, I don't know.
Moths aren't scary.
No, but the sheer size of it would be pretty bad.
Yeah, but they had
Other
to
than
give
that.
her non-moth qualities. Like she would just kind of go zzz with like weird lightning and stuff. Like Ghidorah, the three-headed monster. I mean, that thing is scary. Because it's like it's got this big dragon-looking face or whatever. And supposedly, like, where they do the thing with like the three heads each represent different personalities and stuff. I don't know.
Yeah. No.
It's a weird little rabbit hole.
Yeah, I don't know. So, let's discuss the three attributes of Gamora or Ghidorah. No, it's not Gamora. Gamora is a different thing, but
Gamora is the chick from Guardians of the Galaxy.
yeah. What is what's that newer Netflix show that's all the rage? That is it Korean?
Oh,
is it
you're talking about Squid Game.
Squid Game. Is that a Korean? Is it Korean?
It's South Korean, yeah. Well, I mean, it's
Yeah.
obviously not North Korean because they don't have Netflix in North Korea.
It's a North Korean show. It's their biggest export ever. But yeah,
I mean, there's a whole film industry in North Korea. Like,
Yeah.
isn't like Kim Jong Un like hires all these people to like make movies for him and stuff?
Yeah, right.
But
I was
did you hear? Did you? Oh, sorry. Sidebar. Before we go into that, there was a story that the American guy who defected to North Korea in like the 1960s or whatever. So like after the Korean War, there was like an American presence there in South Korea and like right on the border. So apparently there was this dude who like was sort of a disaffected youth, never really had a job or any sort of structure, joined the army to have and he didn't like getting told what to do all the time. So one day he just looks down the road and goes, huh, and just starts walking, like carrying his rifle with him. And so the North Koreans at the other end of the street were like, oh, what the hell do we do? So they're like, stop. And he just surrenders. And so he defects to North Korea. And so they paraded him around as like a propaganda tool. So he's like, see, look how terrible the West is. They all want to come here. And he was like,
one guy.
yeah, okay. So they put him up in that Pyongyang hotel.
Yeah.
And he kind of lived there. And there was a couple other dudes too. And all these three American, or maybe it was a British dude. And so they were all there. And this would make a great movie. There was like two of them that were like, we got to get out of here. And then the one guy was like, no, we should stay here. There's nothing for us there. And they had to orchestrate this escape back to South Korea and stuff. And then South Korea was like, we don't want you. You're a jerk. So anyway, they made those guys star in movies because they didn't have any American looking people that lived in North Korea to act and to play the evil Americans. So it said that the biography I was reading of this dude, like they said, like his whole career was just playing evil Americans in these propaganda films that they would make.
Good for him. He was
It's a day's work.
yeah. Well, you can't beat him.
It ain't much, but it's a living.
Yeah. Sure, I'm eating cats and dogs, but whatever. It's the best cats and dogs in the whole country.
It's better than everybody else.
Yeah. I was just gonna joke about the difference between like exploding cities in like a Japanese style movie to like a lot of the other. I was really thinking Japanese horror movies are a lot of like person to person like torture movies. Like that's a thing.
Yeah.
That's a big thing in like I know it's a lot of Japanese stuff, and I guess that Squid Show is kind of along the same size, being it's Korean, but like it's that.
It's not actually about
Really-
squids, by the way.
No, I'm aware. It's like a weird, like Running
Yeah.
Man kind of game show kind of thing.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, I watched it. I thought it was very engaging.
I haven't watched any of it. Yeah,
It's
like,
it's difficult.
and like there's like Rob Zombie does those kind of movies too, where it's just like interpersonal torture and horror between like
Yeah.
That stuff makes me super uncomfortable. So I don't know if I'm gonna want to watch it. Like I don't like those kind of movies.
Well,
I don't know
Squid
why
Game isn't that way. I was curious about it. It almost leans a little bit more into sci-fi dystopia
Yeah.
because there's like, I'm
Is
not
a
going to
Running
give you
Man?
anything.
Is that an apt analogy? That's my understanding.
It's a Running
kinda
Man,
ish.
yeah, Battle Royale, Hunger Games, that
Right.
tradition, that genre. But and it's kind of people have been talking about like there's political overtones to it, like it's anti-capitalist. Like the idea is that like all of these people voluntarily join this game, even though they know that it's deadly, because the system doesn't. They have no other option, right? They're all like super in debt, and they're all just like, I'm going to make a bunch of billions of dollars. So there's that part of it, but the show isn't really about that. It's about like
Is that about the fight for 15? Are you sure?
it's like.
I haven't seen it, so I'm Bernie Sanders, and I adore
Yeah, you got to put the
movie.
Bernie Sanders pull quote on like the DVD package. I thought it was great. Yeah, no, but I mean, it's pretty horrific. But it's weird in the sense that like it's very. There's not like dramatic music, you know what I mean? It's not like flashy camera work, even though it's like sort of clinical and very, I guess you could say like Asian cinema in the sense that like, but it makes it so matter of fact that it makes the violence more shocking.
Right,
'Cause
Is
it's
it,
not-
subtitled. Or
It
is it
could
dubbed?
be. It's dubbed. So that's
it's dubbed?
it's a little strange because some of the people dubbing some of the voices are way overacting.
Yeah, right.
And so you kind of forget that
Do you?
in some cases. Now, some of the characters are just very grating on the screen, but like, I guess the problem is that like it's kind of like lost in the sense that the mystery is part of what makes it compelling. Like there's a morality tale of like all of these people that you kind of get to know over the course of the show. And then you're kind of,
their individual details, their story.
yeah. So like there's some
little bit.
characters that you're like, oh, I really hope that guy dies because he's a jerk or he's a villain or whatever. And then there's like a sympathetic old man. You're like, oh man, what's going to happen to him? Or like this good natured friend or whatever. And so there's the thing was like, well, okay, we know that only one person can survive. Right. So obviously all these people are going to die. And then it's like, how do they have to make these sadistic, cruel choices. Like they have to play against each other, like their friends and stuff. But beyond that, there's the whole mystery of like, well, who the hell's running this thing? Right. Because there's all the people running the show or like masks and stuff. So if the story was just about the game show, it wouldn't be as compelling. So there's some backstory stuff. But the problem is once you get to the end of the season and they reveal some of the stuff, you're like, oh, well, that's interesting. I guess I'll check out season 2 to see more of the backstory, but like, it's not an experience you'd want to revisit because now
Does it
you
not-
know
It does not conclude. It's not a self-contained season.
it sort of is. I mean,
Gotcha.
it wraps up part of it, but it doesn't wrap up the whole story.
Yeah, I don't know.
Look,
I
it
wanna
clearly was very popular, so I'm sure they'll make more. So,
Sure.
I don't know.
I bet it's Richard Donner. He's behind the whole thing.
You mean
Running Man joke? Running Man joke. That guy. That's that actor's name.
No, that wasn't Richard Donner. That was
Are you sure?
Richard Donner was the guy who directed Superman and Lethal Weapon. What was the game show dude from Running Man?
Yeah.
What was his name?
Running Man. Oh, that's a Korean show as well. Good to know. Richard Dawson. Dang it,
Dawson.
Dawson. I was close.
I was
Richard
thinking
Dawson.
Dawkins, but no, that's the scientist dude.
Yeah. He also did Family Feud, right?
Oh, right.
That's what it was. Yeah.
Dude,
Dawson.
The Running Man is a movie that we could remake. You know,
remake?
yeah.
Why?
Like
It's
because
good.
it wasn't very good, right? Like they say the best movies to remake are not classics because it's like how are you going to improve on that? But The Running Man is objectively kind of shitty in a few ways. You know,
Yeah,
like-
but it's good. It's good in its 80s glory.
right? But think about
crap
what you could
80s
do
movie.
with like our obsession with like reality TV now. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Sure.
Like, I guess the only way to do that would be to like amp it up to the point where it would be kind of a Squid Game sort of thing, where it's like you really would have to dial up. You wouldn't be able to do like an Arnold Schwarzenegger thing where he's like fighting like Jesse Ventura with which guy did he play? The flamethrower dude, or no?
Yep. Yeah.
Or did he was the guy with the chainsaw? I don't know.
No, he didn't have the chainsaw. He was Pyro. Was it Pyro? Is that what the name of it was? Like the crowd starts chanting and he comes in. I don't remember.
That
There was
movie
there was the hockey guy. There was the chainsaw guy.
Sub-Zero.
Was it Sub-Zero?
There was I think.
See, now
Yeah.
I'm mixing up my Arnold Schwarzenegger one-liners because I want to go chill out, but that's from him being Mr. Freeze. It's not the.
It's like Sub-Zero now straight zero or whatever he says.
Bah!
That movie is so bizarre.
Yeah, it's pretty funny though. I guess you could remake it. I don't know. I'm just generally against remakes because like didn't they remake Total Recall? Didn't they do a new Total Recall at one
yes.
point? Right. I didn't even watch it.
It was lame.
But like Total Recall is the same vibe. Like Total Recall is good, but it's 80s good, and it's like dumb action movie 80s, and it's stupid.
Total Recall is way better than Running Man, though.
Sure, I'll give you that one. Yeah, but it's still just like fantastical and retarded and stupid and violent for no reason. Like
Well, also violent. Being smart.
Oh, is it? Lay it on me, Dan.
It's a little
Tell
bit
me about
smart.
it.
It's smart. Like
there was that one lady with 3 boobs. That really amped the movie up for me.
Well, it was one of the first movies of its kind to be like, it's a sort of reality bending thing, right? So it gets to the end of the movie and it's like, okay, wait a minute, was that real or not?
Yeah, right.
Right, because everything that they predicted would happen in his dream happened in the movie.
Right.
You know, and so that's
I'll give you that. That's true.
Interesting.
It's a think piece. It really is. Yeah. It's a head scratcher.
It's kind of like it's Paul Verhoeven, so it's similar to like RoboCop and Starship Troopers, which kind of went over everybody's head as sort of like satirical takedowns of things.
Well, Starship Troopers, I get. What about RoboCop? What are you talking about?
Well, it wasn't as satirical as Starship Troopers. RoboCop still functions as a standalone movie, but it was sort of an indictment of like rampant capitalism, right? So
yeah,
the decline of Detroit, which it predicted pretty well.
Pretty well. Yep.
Like, I don't even know, what was Detroit like in the 80s? Was it like a hellhole, or was it still booming? I don't know.
I think it was on its way downhill.
Yeah.
I think
they pretty much called that
60s
one.
And 70s was 60s and 70s Detroit. Like 50s to 70s Detroit, I think was like the heyday of Detroit.
Yeah.
50s and 60s for sure. Interesting.
So it wasn't like a message movie, but it was just like, it was a typical action movie with like some sci-fi elements that in the fringes of it had some interesting little details about the world, about like, capitalism eventually taking over to where like private contractors kind of, are in charge of police departments and governments. And, the society has sort of a casual relationship with violence and corruption. It's just the kind of stuff that gets written about in your typical sci-fi stuff. It's the only, but it has to be sort of an exaggerated, heightened world.
Of course.
Because if it was realistic, the idea of a part man, part cop who walks like this would not be believable. It's an inherently ridiculous concept.
Yeah, because then juxtapose that to like the Terminator, which is like an actual robot, not part man, but that thing moves perfectly in theory. Now, granted, it's from the future; it's future technology, but whatever. It's a movie. You can do whatever you want. RoboCop could be as fluid moving. It should have been as fluid moving as the Terminator. Come on.
Yeah, I guess he was strong and he was like bulletproof, except for the part of his face that you could easily just
just shoot him in the face. That's all you got to do.
Yeah,
the fatal flaw, whatever.
Well, so one of the original idea for the Terminator was not that he was like this hulking beast, like Lance Henriksen, who he was originally, they wrote it with him in mind, the idea that he'd be like a normal looking person who could like sneak through society. And so Arnold Schwarzenegger saw the script and he was like, I want to play the Terminator, the robot guy. And so they were like, oh, that could be good for the movie. So they kind of tooled it to like make it more like larger than life, that he was this sort of scary presence in it, and it worked. But it is inherently ridiculous. Like if you really wanted to make something that could sneak into society, it would look much more like Terminator 2,
Yeah,
where
and
it's like a regular
like
dude.
assassinate anybody. You'd want it to be like a Joe
Yeah.
Blow looking normal dude.
You wouldn't design it to look like somebody that nobody else looks like.
Yeah.
Like this
And
giant
then-
person
and he couldn't
who
talk
can't
into an
speak
accent.
English.
I can only talk like this. Like, you're a freaking robot. Use the dialect.
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah,
my
that's
G-
the
my
funny part about the movie is that like he's seen mimicking other people's voices perfectly.
Yeah.
But then in every other scenario, he just uses his crazy Austrian voice.
Yeah, like look now, like the 2020 hindsight. You're like, my GPS can talk to me in a different accent. And I was like, you're a freaking sophisticated machine from 1,000 years in the future or whatever. And you can't, or not 1,000.
Who was it who made that joke? It was some comic that was like, why is it that everybody can do a brilliant impersonation of Arnold Schwarzenegger, but he can't do an impersonation of somebody who can pronounce the word California?
California. Yeah. That's funny. I don't know. Little Arnold. You got into what he was in the news a little while ago, right? Oh, he said something like "screw your freedom" or something like that's what it was. Screw your
yeah.
freedoms.
Yeah, I didn't like that.
Who said something like that recently, though?
I mean, the president said
It was the
that.
president. Right, that's right. God, what a dick.
He was like, it's not about freedom. Come on, man.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Well, your freedom? What? Your freedom to kill somebody? That's right. Stupid, predictable town hall stuff.
Yeah. Did you see that one? That one. Everybody was talking about that one clip where it was like it zoomed out, and he was standing there like with his arms like
Yeah.
like this, and everybody was like, "Is he on Jeopardy? Like, what's happening?"
Goes into his button.
Yeah.
Ha.
Yeah, that was disappointing when Arnold said that, because up until recently, like he was a person that I kind of liked a lot.
Yeah.
You know, I'd be like, he seemed like he was a sort of a moderate. He wasn't like super right wing. He wasn't like, he was governor of California, like because of the money part of it, right? He wanted to like, we got to fix the money problems and the corruption in California and all that stuff. I was like, oh, that sounds pretty reasonable. Like if he could run for president, I'm sure he would be a little middle of the road and not too extreme.
Probably.
And I kind of liked him as a person. You know, he's worked very hard to get where he is.
Yeah.
You know, and so he's a role model in many ways, not always. But like, so for him to come out there and just like, you know, screw your freedom, it's not about freedom. It's just like, dude, you know,
Yeah.
I think that's kind
agree.
of, I don't know. Maybe that's the Hollywood part. Maybe he's just afraid of losing his career or something.
He's fine.
Yeah, he'll be. That's maybe that's what's disappointing.
Yeah, because
Because it's like he's made his mark. He can say anything he wants.
Yeah, he can say anything he wants to. Yeah. Yeah. So he really believes that, I think. Because it's not like he's hurting for work or hurting for money. I mean, maybe he is. He might have made some terrible. I know he has made some terrible decisions, but I'm sure he's still fine. He doesn't need to work. You know what I mean?
He had to give half of his kindergarten cop money to Maria Shriver.
Yeah. And the other half to his maid's kid or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, Shriver. Also, my favorite spoof on Arnold Schwarzenegger is Rainier Wolfcastle.
Rainier
from The
Wolfcastle.
Simpsons.
McBain.
Maria, my mighty heart is breaking.
Have you seen that thing where it's like if you watch all the various
Yeah, the
McBain
McBain
clips
movies,
over the
the whole
years,
movie.
and they
Yeah.
all work together?
Yep, it's awesome. Yep, that's it's brilliant.
Yeah.
It's very funny. Mendoza. I know a lot about those. That's my favorite Simpsons era, so I'm very, very up on the McBain lore.
That makes me think if I ever needed like a fake name for something, if I needed like make like a fake passport or whatever, Rainier Wolfcastle would have to be.
a great name.
That might be one of the best fake names ever created?
Yeah, it's pretty good. The there's so much Simpsons stuff out there because there's like, what is it? They got like 35 seasons or something like that. So like, I didn't really watch all the newer stuff as it was happening, but now with Disney Plus, I can watch all of them. And like every day this month, I've been watching the Treehouse of Horrors. Like they're every season they have a Halloween special, so it's like my Halloween ritual. I get to watch all these stupid Simpson horror stuff, and it's been really fun. So I've been watching ones I've never seen before. I was like, oh
Me and Levi we were going through them, and we're like, I've never seen this. This game must have come out when I was in college or something.
Yeah, and like people like shit on the newer episodes, and I get it. They're not like, but again, the nerd out on Simpsons stuff, like up through like season like 3 through 12, it's like amazing. And then like especially like the Conan O'Brien years are like some of the best ones. Those like
Yeah.
4 years he was a writer. But like the stuff after it's still really funny. You're just trying to compare it to like stuff that you loved when you were a kid, and it's just not fair. Like
Yeah.
that's not a good. I mean, and objectively, those episodes are better. They are funnier, and they're really well written. But the newer stuff is still funny.
There's a narrative, like what's the word I'm looking for? Scatterbrained quality to the classic stuff that should not work. Like there was that episode about Tamako.
I love the Tamako episode,
And it was
yeah.
like, if you look at the story of that, it starts one place, it goes here, 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 here. It just goes in a million directions.
Yeah,
There's not a beginning and a middle and an end to that story. And if you looked at the script, you'd be like, this is not well written. This is preposterous.
right.
But that's the best stuff, right? Like the really early stuff is like a little bit too structured. It's like trying to be like, sitcom about a family kind of stuff. And you're like, all right, this feels pretty lame.
Yeah,
But then when they were really firing on all cylinders, it's like it's like they were on like the best drugs, and they're like, "How about I got it?" And they're just like they're just going for it, and they're all like in the zone.
yeah, but yeah, no, I agree. Like the earlier seasons, they're like, it's like Married with Children, not really, but like it's like it's
Yeah.
self-contained family stories,
But
And
with a
that's-
like a screwed up twist.
right yeah, obviously that's not a great whatever. It's not a great analogy, but it is that they were just trying to do like a family sitcom that's a cartoon, and then it got a little wacky, like the monorail episode, like I mean, whatever. Like that stuff's awesome. Like all those stupid.
Is that the one where
episodes.
they ended up in the County of the Apes at the end, and Reverend Lovejoy saves them?
No.
There was one. I'm thinking of something else. There's one where like Reverend Lovejoy like loses his faith and like he loses his mojo and stuff. He's like, I don't know what it's all for, or whatever. And then at the end, they get stuck at like some sort of theme park, and so there's like at the zoo. There's like an exhibit that's like called the County of the Apes or whatever, and then like they all get stuck in there and they're about to be attacked, and Reverend Lovejoy like sweeps in and saves them. Or whatever, and he like gets all his
I know what
mojo
you're
back,
talking
and then like the
but that's
title
not
of the
that's
sermon
not
the next day
monorail.
is like "Escape from the County of the Apes" or something like that.
Those yeah, see, The Simpsons really pioneered those little cutaway joke things, like the billboard signs at like
Yeah.
the PTA or like the town hall, or just these little like you have to. It's only on the screen for like 2 seconds, and you have
Yeah.
to see it and then laugh. No, but like the Tamako episode starts off with Homer like watching Zorro and then like getting into duels with people and like slapping people across the face. So that's how they, and then like he slaps like this good old boy Texas guy, and he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna challenge you to a duel," and he's like, "Oh no, he's gonna get shot." So then they leave to the country and they buy a farm, and then they do the tobacco thing. So that's how that starts.
Forgot about all that.
Yeah,
It's-
yeah. So like,
it's just like this preposterous.
you're like, that's such a non sequitur to get to them to be growing tobacco, like whatever. Yeah. So
Yeah, I would love to like watch the writing process of like a bunch of dudes sitting in a room. They've eaten nothing but pizza for like 3 days. They're like, what if we did one where they grew plants? And then somebody like Conan is like, well, how do they get out there? And it's like, I got it.
right.
All right. Homer's gonna get in a fight with, so like they almost write the thing in reverse, right?
Yeah, exactly. No, it's like it's like a bit thing where it's just like, oh, we come up with a funny bit, and then how do we work that into it? Let's start off the show that way. We're like, all right, this ended. We're like, I like this other bit. Just cram them together. It'll be fine. I mean, Family Guy is that only like on crack. Where like Family Guy has 8,000 of those segues, but they're just like the cutaway jokes, like
Yeah.
the real cutaway things. You're just like half the jokes in Family Guy aren't even related to the story. They're just like, here's a funny thing we think, and Peter's gonna go, well, remember that time when, and then like
Yeah.
he just goes off to the distance and it comes back. You're like, all right,
Yeah, I feel like Family Guy gets unfair. I mean, I haven't watched it in 15 years, but like I feel like
Neither
it
have I.
gets unfairly shat on. But I think like the only way to get that many jokes that do stick is to just do so many.
oh yeah, yeah,
Right.
It's nonstop, yeah.
So
It's
like
bad.
if
It's
you
like
if you
shotgun-
cherry
shotgun
pick the
approach.
if you cherry picked like the best Family Guy episodes, the top 10%, that'd be a solid grouping. You know what I mean? Same thing with South Park. South Park, has its certain little cream of the crop of genius that is untouchable, right? Then they also have a lot of dreck. But I mean,
I'll grant you that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But those kind of shows are prolific, man. They've the Simpsons, South Park,
Yeah.
Family Guy. They put out so much content. It's not even funny.
What? Okay, so this brings us back to like Chappelle and comics. You know, it's like to get like a solid hour. I mean, you know, who is it who was talking about it? It was like comics love musicians, musicians love comics. Like
Yep.
musicians have the advantage that like you can write a song at home. You know, you can work on it, you can produce it, you can record it. And you'll kind of know that it works without ever showing it to anybody. But like if you're a comic, like the writing process happens in front of people.
Yeah, you have
So,
to. You have to.
you know, even if you're like at the level of doing Netflix specials, you know, you put it out there and you're like, all right, well, millions of people have heard those jokes. I got to start over now. I got to come up with a new hour. And so, like, you know, I was in New York. We went to the Comedy Cellar and we saw there was a bunch of comics there working on their material. And it was like, this is where they try out the stuff to work on the timing. It's like watching somebody write a song in real time,
Yeah.
you know? And so I guess the people who are good at it make it look easy. You're like, oh, well, they just sat down and wrote an hours, but you're not seeing all of the hours and hours and hours of like where they bombed in Philadelphia, you know, or they did a walk-on gig here and they're like, all right, I got this thing I'm working on. And it's like crickets for 25 minutes. And they're like, all right, you've been great. You know,
Right.
it just doesn't go anywhere. But like, what's funny is like, so we were in New York and there was like 5 comics on the bill. Like Colin Quinn was there, like a couple other people. It was a great show. Like everybody did really well. There was this one lady whose name I can't remember who did a bunch of really good jokes. And we're like, these are really good. And so we were driving back and we're like, what was that girl's name? We're like, oh, she has a special on Amazon. We should watch it. So we turned it on like in the car and it was all the same jokes.
Same stuff. Okay.
And I was like, wow, that was a ballsy move because I guess she was banking on the fact that the people in this crowd hadn't seen her hour-long thing.
Yeah.
So she just did all the same jokes. And it was probably smart because all those jokes killed.
Right.
So her name was Marina something or other. I wish I could remember because she was really funny, but it was just like kind of disappointing because it's like, I already heard all these punchlines. It's like,
Yeah, see, but juxtaposed to musicians, that's not fair. Like, I get that. Like, obviously, like you go to see Journey live. Like, if you pay to see Journey and they don't play "Don't Stop Believing," you better get your damn money back. That's all I'm saying.
You're gonna get a
That's
riot.
not fair. Yeah, that's not cool. You can't do that.
That's why
Or,
we
like-
play it near the end of the show because if you play it early on, everybody leaves.
Oh, of course, right? Yeah, no, that's a no-brainer. Like anytime I've seen Jimmy Eat World play, their last song is the freaking middle. They're not
Yeah.
starting off with that song. They're like, we're gonna play the song that gets the most money at the end because I know that's why. So, well, not like in that instance, but like, it's. Not
I mean, they
fair.
could. That might be a fun way to like weed out the Fairweather fans.
Get the hell
Just
out of
open
here,
up with it, and then half the
Yeah.
people leave. And like, all right, the rest of you guys are
Come
crowd.
on up, come up front. Yeah,
Yeah.
But like, yeah, I don't know. I think, I mean, there are people that can do that with comedy. Like I remember, what's his face, like Bert Kreischer will do like the Machine story as like an encore.
That is a great story.
I know, but people want to hear, like, so they'll go up there and like he'll do the story, and people are like talking like they've memorized it, so like they know the
Yeah.
whole thing and they're waiting for it, and it's so funny. And like I don't know if I've ever told you this. We saw Jeff Dunham play like the
The ventriloquist dude.
ventriloquist guy, yeah.
Yeah.
And like it was really funny. We went to Greensboro, and like it wasn't like because that guy has a million specials and like whatever, shit on him for what he is if you don't think that's real comedy or whatever. But it's pretty freaking funny.
Yeah,
and
he's
like the
doing all
stuff
right.
the stuff that we saw was all stuff that I'd never seen before, and it was hilarious. But he came out and did an encore, and he brought out like the little redneck dude, because we were in Greensboro.
Oh, the old man.
No, the redneck guy, like Bubba J, like the NASCAR watching dude. No, the
Oh.
old man's like one of the premier guys he does.
Oh, okay.
And like, so he wasn't part of the show. He came out and did the encore, and he was actually like reading notes. Like he didn't like have an encore planned. So he came out and he's like reading notes off his jokes off as like a notepad. But he was reading notes and jokes that he had done in specials that he didn't necessarily remember. But everyone in the crowd knew the fucking punchlines, and they were screaming out the punchlines before the joke was over. And he was just like, well, this is stupid. He's like, anybody just want to come up and read these jokes for me? Like, because like everybody in the crowd knew the jokes that he didn't know. Like he didn't know the joke by heart.
Yeah.
But everybody out there knew it, and they were loving it though. Like, and like me and Sally were just laughing. We're like, I can't believe all these people know all these jokes. This is crazy. It was
That's interesting.
entertaining. It was just an interesting thing. Like it wasn't. I didn't think it was. I had no thoughts about it other than that. It was just really funny. I was just like, this
It
guy's
probably
like a
works
rock
if you're there. I could see that working
Yeah.
in a live context, like once. Like I remember Seinfeld did that special like in the early 2000s. Where he was like, I'm telling you for the last time. It's basically just like him retiring all these famous bits. And it's like, that's weird because the delivery, like, as a person who watched so much Seinfeld as a younger person, it's like, you can't beat the original delivery. Right?
Right.
So he's just like, oh, yeah. Yeah, it's not as funny when he says it this time, you know? Like,
Right.
it's just like,
But I think, yeah, but like you said though, if you're there and you're experiencing it, you get to feel it. You're part of the story. You're part of the conversation. It's like a conversation
yeah.
in a stand up kind of context. Or the same thing even with music, man. Because like bands will do songs. They're like, all right, and it's a little annoying when they do this. They'll take a song and they'll change it up and they'll play it live. You'll be like, that's like one of my favorite songs. I want to hear it the way it's played. But it's also really cool when it was like, no, we're gonna change it up because we want to play it this way. And the song's still basically the same. It's just like a stripped down version or a louder version or a faster or slower. You know what I mean? That makes it cool. Just
That
to
is
hear
a
it-
delicate
hear-
balance. Yeah. Because
Well,
you're never going to
yeah,
please everybody.
No, but like, and the people that can do that are people that they've been around forever, and they're just like, son of a bitch, I'm not playing this song again, the
Yeah.
exact same way, like just for our own sanity's sake. Like we're gonna change it up.
Yeah, that's a tricky thing for a lot of people, I think. I mean, Toto gets around that by having different lineups every tour. Like,
Yeah,
you know, like the only person that's consistent, Steve Lukather, is pretty much the only guy that's been in the band for everybody else has come and gone. So like you go to see Toto on a different tour, Africa's going to sound different every time.
sure.
And they're all like world class. So, and you know, they take
Yeah,
a
it's all
3-minute
good.
song and they're all jam and stuff. And
Yeah,
it's,
yeah.
you know, yeah, I mean, I'm the kind of person that like, if I wanted to hear it sound like the record, I just listen to the record. But
Yeah.
not everybody's like that, you know.
Right.
So-
well, like we saw Tom Petty play. Like he does like it like almost exclusively was doing like a very stripped down like learning to fly. Like that's not like a full thing, and like free falling, like half of free falling was just like him playing by himself, and then like the band comes in and like does like this big crescendo thing. So it's like totally different, and like those are like some of the biggest songs he's got. But also
Yeah.
he has like 40 other songs he's gonna play. That whatever. Just
Yeah, he's got a pretty
I
deep
get it.
catalog.
oh yeah. Well, don't get me started on Tom Petty. I love Tom Petty. But yeah, that's a cool thought. Like the way musicians and comedians are the same and different. That is really hard.
Yeah.
It's funny because you can put a good song on paper, but it's still got to connect with people. It doesn't mean necessarily it's good.
Right. Oh, that's true.
And they could
Yeah.
be and like songs can come out like years and years and years later. And you're like, oh wow, that song I wrote 30 years ago became popular all of a sudden because it was played in a freaking Super Bowl ad or something like that,
Yeah.
which is crazy, but just the way it is.
All that to say, I really would like to see Adam Sandler play Bruce Springsteen in a movie. I think that would be hilarious.
That would be good. Or Will Ferrell as Chad Smith in the
Yeah.
story of the Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Yeah.
That's the only one I got. I don't know who else could play anybody in the Chili Peppers, but that's fine. That's a band I like to see live. They're I'm sure they're amazing. They've been around forever.
I guess I never really became a huge fan of theirs.
I'm not a huge fan, but
But I guess the eclecticness, they're all kind of all
I
over
bet
the
they're
place.
yeah, but they're a talented group of dudes. Like those
Yeah.
songs are pretty intense. I think live they'd be really good. They put all their stuff together. Like the best of the Chili Peppers live, that'd be fun.
Yeah,
would
they
go.
would have a solid 60 minutes.
Oh god, I bet they play for like 3 hours.
Well, right. I'm just saying, like, you know, any of these
You would
classic bands, like,
Yeah.
it's almost hard to do a bad show when you're only playing for an hour. Like, we played down.
Oh yeah, right.
We
Okay,
played.
that
It's,
makes sense.
we have that problem because it's like, you know, Journey has like 80 minutes of hits, so it's like, you know, trying to fill a 2.5 hour show, you got to throw in like a drum solo and like do some jams, and you lose people. But like the other day when we had to play for 90 minutes because like let's say there was a Bon Jovi tribute that played before us, and you know they just played hit, boom and out. So it was a very solid tight set. And
Did
so
they
we had
open?
90 minutes, but even for us, 90 minutes was small. So it's like,
Yeah.
it was so easy because there was no opportunity to lose anybody because you were just playing like, you know, all
You
these.
didn't have to do any Steve Perry filler songs. Did you play?
Well, we
Sherry?
played Oh Sherry, but you know, because that was big. But like, it was easy. Like, and then we get to the end, you do Wheel in the Sky, and we're done. We're like, wow, nobody left because nobody had time to get bored. I kind of
Yeah.
wish we could do those shows more often.
Well, like the show I saw with you, there's probably, I don't know, maybe there's probably 4 or 5 songs I didn't know. Not that many,
Yeah.
but I also don't remember how long the set was. There was an interlude.
There was a
all that
break in
stuff.
there. Yeah, I mean, you start doing like keyboard solos and stuff. I mean, it works. I mean, I guess people feel like sometimes people feel like they're getting their money's worth. If it's like a 2.5 hour thing, it's like the whole night. But
Yeah,
it's
that's a long
it's
time.
hard
Yeah,
to.
you were the only band playing, right? There wasn't a band before you guys
Yeah.
at that thing, right? So yeah, that makes sense. You're
It's
supposed to
hard
fill that
to-
little time slot.
It's hard to get people back once they've walked away.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? The only trick. So that sometimes I'm like, look, I like doing a guitar solo thing, but it's like I can see people losing interest. Like,
Yeah.
So we don't have to do that, right? We could anyway.
yeah. Like I'll throw something out there for 35 seconds and then I'm done. Like this isn't like a Van Halen tribute here, where I
Yeah,
got, like,
nobody's coming here to hear me, so.
right. Yeah, interesting stuff. Either way, I got to get into more shows. I haven't seen any. Well, I've seen some live music, and that's been fun. But I want to see more comedy shows too. Like I haven't bought any tickets for that in a while.
Yeah. It was funny, the weekend that we left, there was like I forget her name. The blonde chick was at
I narrowed it down.
it was in Durham, and then there was another guy who I'd recognized that was like in Raleigh, like the exact weekend that we were gone. It was like annoying, but like, yeah, occasionally decent sized names come through the triangle.
Well, if you see something, let me know. If you end up, if you got
Yeah,
some
if I have
kill.
time, I'd
I know
love to.
I know your weekends are slammed. That'd be a fun thing to go up there and catch a show.
Yeah, I'm down. Let's do it.
Who was the blonde chick? Do you remember?
It was what's her name? Nikki Glazer.
Oh, good lord, that woman is offensive and
Yeah.
hilarious.
She's funny.
She's very funny.
She's
Her-
hilarious.
Her roast stuff is brutal.
Oh yeah.
She is.
Yeah,
she's-
the one where I've seen those
she's-
compilations. She's brutal.
Yeah, dude, she is so cutting and stunning. She's very funny.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. Yeah, she's intense. Yeah, that would be fun. Like, man, so I had Joe Rogan tickets before it was canceled because of COVID. I was like, motherfucker. Like, I think it was in Raleigh. So I was like, oh, this is cool. I was like, get to go see Joe Rogan. I had friends of ours were going, and like we're gonna hang out, like me and Sally and a couple friends. We had like hotels lined up. It was gonna be fun.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
nope.
the really big names come through here and they play like Deepak, and it's
Yeah.
like,
I think that's where it
$100.
was.
So
Yeah,
it
no,
can be
was-
kind of expensive, but yeah, there's just some decent sized names come through here. Like Dimitri Martin came through and played the Carolina Theater, and
Yeah.
other people. But yeah, now that the industry's starting up again, hopefully it'll be nice.
I was blown away. Like 3 years ago, my parents were like, I said something about coming over to watch football or something like that. They're like, oh no, we're gonna be out of town. I was like, oh, where are you going? They're like, we're gonna go see Jim Gaffigan. I was like, what? I was like, you didn't tell me you're going to see Jim Gaffigan? I was like, I want to go see Jim Gaffigan. I was like,
Yeah,
where
he,
you going?
dude, he
They're like,
plays up here in Raleigh, and it like
Yeah.
sells out the place.
well, I think they saw him in Myrtle Beach. So, but like either way, that's
Oh wow.
from where we're at. That's like,
Yeah, he headlines like
amazing.
PNC Arena up here,
Oh yeah, cool.
and like
Well, see, that's one of those things, man. Like, I would imagine if he came out and he was doing old jokes, people would just like eat that crap up. And
yeah,
they're like,
because he appeals to like the people who don't normally like comedy, right? So
right.
they want to hear like do a bacon joke.
Yeah.
You know?
Say hot pockets.
Do that
Hot
hot
pockets.
pocket. Is he
But,
gonna
like-
make jokes about hot pockets or not? I don't know what he's doing.
See, you're making the jokes and I'm laughing. That's how good it is. Just the concept is hilarious. But like,
That guy's going to hell in 3 religions.
we could finish here or whatever. But like, that was the first, like my brother had like all these. I was like, who the hell? What is this? He's like, it's Jim Gaffigan. He's a comedian. I was like, why do you have like 9 CDs of this guy? They're like, he had like the first like bunch of specials on CD. I was like, what is this? I was like, he's a comedian. These are comedy specials. I was like, this seems like a weird thing to be driving around putting your CD in. Like he had
Yeah,
CDs.
is that like a Middle America thing? Or
I
I
don't
mean,
know.
because we don't live in Middle America, but it seems like the type of thing that you would see in like Ohio, where people like driving in your old Ford pickup and you've got like CDs of comics.
Yeah.
I don't know, like
Well, if it's in Middle America, you might have like record like or cassette tapes like dubbed over, all scratched over. He's
yeah,
like, was Richard Pryor? You recorded over it. Now it's it was Jim Brewer. Now it's Jim Gaffigan.
Yeah.
But whatever. I don't know. That's just funny. And then I borrowed a couple of them, and I thought it was hilarious. I was like, "Oh, damn, this guy is really funny." I was like, "This is so
Yeah.
stupid." I'm driving around listening to a DVD, laughing in my car. I was like, "That's crazy."
No, I mean, I used to really like Jim Gaffigan, and then he's like not necessarily my favorite anymore. But I'm glad he's doing it
Sure.
because you need
Yeah.
at least a couple of like PG rated comedians in every era, right?
Yeah,
Because
I'll
like
get you that.
you know, I can watch Seinfeld jokes with my son, you know, and like laugh at it, like, or like Jim Gaffigan. You can put that on and know that it's like with a group of people, and you're like, all right, this is gonna be fine, right?
Yeah.
You're not because it's like you can't have like people over, and then you put on Dave Chappelle, and he's like, I got a movie called Space Jews. It's like, what?
Oh man, like yeah, I remember that. I've had jokes with like I've been sitting around with like elders or pastors in my church, and they're like, "Hey, let's watch this comedian clip," and it's like Jim Gaffigan. I was like, "Phew, okay, this is fine."
Okay, this is gonna be good.
And then like someone else is like, "Hey, watch this," and like it's not Jim Gaffigan, and I'm just like,
Uh-oh.
but like it's not uncomfortable. It's just funny. It's like, all right, this is not PG. He's like, they're like, don't play this in front of your kids. I was like, okay, thank you, I won't.
Yeah.
I wasn't planning on it.
Anytime
But
I see
whatever.
one person standing on a stage with a microphone, I'm immediately telling the kids to leave the room.
Yeah, I was like, let's. I gotta watch this first. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, are we done?
All right. Yeah, I guess so. Fine. Go. Whatever.
No, let's quit while we're ahead.
No, I'm done. No, I'm gonna start scrolling on my phone. We're good. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah. Hey, this is a non-planned, complete random rambling episode. That wasn't
Yeah.
too bad.
No, it was evident that it was non-planned, but that's not necessarily bad.
Yeah, I mean, not that we ever really plan much, but at least we usually throw one idea out there.
Yeah, we
had
only
nothing today.
spent 20% of this time shit talking Joe Biden. So
Yeah,
we
that's
did
pretty
branch
good.
to other topics.
This is true. That's not
Yeah.
bad.